Oh. Hollywood doesn't know how to sword fight.
Are you still frustrated about the CGI?
Yes, but look at this.
There is probably a reason why those fights look the way
I mean,
that...
come on, look at this crap.
Perhaps you should talk to an expert?
Actually, that sounds good. Find somebody who's worked in both Hollywood and YouTube.
What about Joe Golby?
Yeah, give him a call.
Making the call. Connecting. Do be careful.
Why?
Hello?
Joe Golby?
Nate, who even gave you this number?
I have a bone to pick with you.
This better not be a reverse charge call.
Nate V versus Joe Golby. Joe Golby, Fight Choreographer. Nate V, Sword Guy.
Hey!
Round 1, fight!
Joe, I've got a bone to pick with you. Look, all respect to your industry, man, but on behalf of the sword community, we got some beef. Swordplay on the silver screen is seriously lacking. Frankly, it can be downright crap. You call yourselves fight choreographers? This is not at all like a real fight. A few choice words would be slow, inaccurate, sloppy. So on behalf of Hollywood, what do you have to say?
It's paced to allow the audience to understand what's happening. Most HEMA fights I've seen look like an industrial semaphore accident on speed.
I don't know what that is, but you're ignoring the fact that most fight scenes are inaccurate.
It's not inaccurate, it's inspired by. We've read the same historical manuals as you, but this is art and entertainment, not IKEA furniture.
Well, I know many a sword fighter that could put together a better sword fight than we're usually used to seeing on screen, because trust me, we can all see how wrong these fights are.
Movies are made for everyone, not special interest groups. There's probably a subreddit somewhere complaining about inaccurate clutch control in Fast and Furious 6. There's a guy in Gladiator wearing jeans. Quite frankly, I'm amazed we get anything right. A fight scene is an argument with physical actions instead of words. Real-life arguments are shouty and confusing with people talking over each other. That's why we'd rather hear Aaron Sorkin's witty, snappy dialogue in a social network, even if no one in real life talks like that.
Good comparison, his dialogue is amazing on so many levels that it's almost classical. But speaking of classical, what about the director Douglas Fairbanks? I mean, he specifically requested fencing masters to help with his movies in the 1920s.
There were no other options than fencing masters in the 1920s. They were the only people who worked with swords for a living. There was no practical archaeology back then. The historians were just stuffy old men in universities. So if you ask a fencing master for choreography, surprise, surprise, it looks a lot like fencing.
That gives an excuse as to why all the Errol Flynn swashbuckling looks a lot like fencing.
But that's how it began, and it's evolved since, and it's still evolving. It paved the way for epic films and television that we see today.
Yes, but it evolved into movies like The Great Races sword fighting with the ting 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 ting.
Not every film is perfect. But that was 1965 and they were using fencing weapons and using them quite accurately, to be fair. Even if they didn't look like they were actually trying to kill each other. But it all looks quite camp and cliche with the benefit of hindsight.
That's fair. At least there's an excuse for that banality. But there's no excuse for things like Deathstalker 3 or Samurai Cop.
Oh, the clues in the names. Those are the film equivalent of junk food. Stop demanding a 5-star Michelin meal for the same price as a Big Mac.
Alright then, let's get on to the 5-star movies. What about Game of Thrones or Star Wars? I mean, great movies, but with some really horrible sword fights.
Which contain some of the most loved fight scenes of the last decade. They ploughed more time and money into their action scenes than almost any TV production in history. Now you want them to spend even more just to please you and a handful of sword fights.
There's over 1 million of us sword buffs, and we can pick a bad fight scene a mile away. The caliber of these films gives them no excuse for some of the horrible timing and measure. A little more effort from the industry would go a long way. Like Anakin versus Obi-Wan. Horrible. And Luke versus Vader. I mean, emotional, yes, it was a great scene, but technical? I mean, Bob Anderson could have done better.
You watch your words. Bob Anderson was an Olympic fencing master who pioneered the very role of fight choreographer. This is the sword master of Lord of the Rings, James Bond, The Princess Bride. Films are not documentaries, they're about character and stories. He brought them to life with amazing swordplay.
Okay, apologies. That man is a legend. But, like I said, a little more effort from the industry would go a long way.
There's not always the money or time.
What? There's always time for this.
No, there really isn't.
Well, there should
Look,
be.
Nate, I see what you see. I'm one of you, but I've also seen the challenges, time, budget, untrained actors. Demanding 100% realistic sword fights, ironically, isn't realistic. Real fights are quick and messy. There's a reason you script a film, to tell the story you want to tell, and the same thing applies to fight scenes. Hell, we even scripted this video because without this verbal choreography, the audience wouldn't follow it, and it wouldn't be entertaining.
Okay, I get that it needs to be entertaining, and that real fights are quick and messy, so you need theatrics to translate the fight to a larger audience. But what about this? Waifu? What exactly is this translating?
Epic stories, myths turned into legends, exaggerated events, and characters that are larger than normal life.
And blade spinning?
It shows a character's mastery to the audience.
Full body spins?
Their dexterity, it's visual exposition. First rule of filmmaking, show, don't tell.
And finger catching?
Omnipotence.
What about drill attacks?
Really? Nate, just stop. Your arguments are getting tedious, but I'll address the valid points. Yen Wu Ping and Chi Sui Tung are cinematic geniuses. Their job is to push forward art, not to make documentaries. You have to recognise that realism is not a goal for all stories. The telling of the story itself is.
Okay, so The Matrix and The Chinese Ghost Story are amazing stories and told really well, but some of the fight scenes are just not realistic.
The Iliad and the Odyssey are not realistic, but we accept them as great stories.
Okay, what about Born for the Saber? That's a great story that has amazingly realistic fight scenes.
What, the one starring Polish sword masters?
Yeah.
Of course it does. The stars of the raid were martial artists pretty much from birth, but you can't expect the same level of skill from the normal lab-grown Hollywood superstar, even with a month of training. Okay.
I don't know about that. I've trained people to be damn efficient with a sword in a month. I mean, admittedly, what I've taught isn't designed to be cinematic, but isn't it a choreographer's job to teach fighting?
A choreographer's job is to teach safety that looks like fighting, not to teach an actor how to fight for real. Getting them to the level where they can look to an untrained audience, they know what they're doing, and try not to injure them in the process. How many times have you heard some sword enthusiast brag about the injuries they got at the last Battle of the Nation?
Yeah, a few.
That just won't fly in the industry. A scar or concussion isn't a badge of honour, it's a sign you didn't do your job properly. My job is to keep the actors and crew safe, get the best looking fight, and usually without enough time or money to do it to perfection.
I can't fault you for having safety as your primary concern. I'm 100% on board with that. I always have been, I always will be. But you have to admit there's a bit of a chasm between cinematic sword fighting and real sword fighting.
Look, why don't some of you armchair enthusiasts try sitting in a director's chair for once? Burn a few $1,000 dues of your own money and see how easy it is to get something that's both accurate and commercially successful.
We can! We have! And we will again. I mean, we haven't gotten Hollywood blockbuster success yet, but well, damn, I'll keep trying till we do. I mean, hell, we're the ones that write the books that you guys reference.
Try editing scenes and not Wikipedia.
What the hell is wrong with Wikipedia? In fact, that's a perfect analogy for what I just said. With one party writing the material and the other using it as they please.
Try directing a film instead of directing people to like and subscribe. The fundamental problem is the sword community think that the argument it's having is about knowledge and skills. It's not. It's about economics and cost-benefit analysis. What you want would cost far more than you'd ever see back in profit. You will probably see a huge loss because audiences like what they have now. It ain't broke, Nate, so either you fix it or quit bitching.
KO!
Look, mate, this has been a lot of fun, and the truth is I agree with you and a lot of what you say and the criticisms you have. I hope there's room for the kind of swordplay you and your friends want to see in Hollywood. And it's certainly gotten better, but it takes time. I think championing the good will always have more impact than criticising the bad, even if that sometimes gets more views. If producers see audiences want better swordplay, that's what they'll make. Cheerio.
GG.
Stay safe.
You lose! Game over!
Did I just lose?
Yes. Would you like a recap?
No, I don't need a play-by-play.
That's okay. I'll summarize. Most of your points were referring to accuracy and overdone theatrics, stating that it is not a true representation of actual swordplay. You also attempted to tarnish the name of Bob Anderson. That was low.
Yeah, my bad. That was a little much.
Joe responded to your argument by noting that fight choreography is designed to be art and entertainment, more relevant to the story than it is to fight accuracy, and paced so the general public can keep up with it. He also noted that there is a safety element with untrained actors, and there is always a cost-benefit analysis to consider, one where the general public are a factor. But, unfortunately, sword enthusiasts are not. And apparently, he can play video games better than you too.
Thanks for that. So, basically, we just need to change our viewpoint. Rather than attacking how some movies are, which admittedly is always fun banter, we should instead be raising up the great scenes. Celebrating when Hollywood brings established sword masters on board with their productions. And tweeting the hell out of the ones that are great on all counts, so Hollywood can't ignore it when there's a response for something that good.
Yes.
That's fair. I can support that. I'm happy to have my mind changed. On that note, guys, I've put some links to some amazing fight scenes in the description of this video. Plug the hell out of these when you get a chance and flood the comments with your own top picks. And there's upcoming movies that have spent the time and effort in pre-production to make sure their fights will be simultaneously cinematic and amazingly historically accurate, like Shadow of the Conqueror. It'll only be a short film, but when it's released, plug the hell out of it so Hollywood stands up and notices that all that extra effort is met with equivalent accolade. So I hope you found this entertaining and informative. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Like that. Especially if you're like me and you're willing to listen to the other side of the debate, especially if it's an argument that you hadn't properly considered before. Finally, special thank you to Joe Golby for all his help with this one. You can check out his other works in the link I provided below. So till next time, guys, train safe and stay sword savvy.
Can I play?
Sure. What have I got to lose?
Your dignity. Oh, wait.
Hey.
Sorry, but you did jump into a debate without researching the other side of the argument.
Oh, I'm gonna kick your digital butt.
Bring it on, meat popsicle.
Hey, no hacking.